Our next speaker is a guy that I share. When I met him earlier today, I said, I think the first time I saw you speak was about 25 years ago. And at that time, he was the driving force between the convenience research agency, HIM. He now is development director for TWC, the business that's really making waves in the use of wholesaler sales data and the effective use of that. Today, though, he's going to be talking about, from TWC's Consumer Trends report, going back a bit, I suppose, to what you used to do, I suppose, really back at, and looking at the trends in the consumer, how are consumers responding to the changes in household budgets, how is it impacting food decisions, and how should suppliers and wholesalers be responding. So please do welcome to the stage Tom Fender.
I know what you're all thinking. I don't look old enough. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Elliot, and thank you to the whole family of JJ for inviting me here today. I'm slightly a new addition to the lineup. I have two apologies to make. One, I'm not Sarah Coleman, who was on the original panel to speak this morning, but we made a decision on Monday that with the trains and weather and things like that, and she lives up north and I live only about 4 miles away, that it would probably be simpler for me to do that. The downside, there's two downsides, you get me, not Sarah, and the other downside is first time I looked at this presentation was on Monday. The third downside is that we've been asked to talk about consumer trends, and as we are or not in a recession, then that may well suggest that there's a bit of doom and gloom coming up. The good news is that I fully endorse what Simon has just said, that the media, on the one hand, can bring us into a recession, and the second thing, which actually one of the earlier points, which I think will be quite nicely shown in some of the stats which we're going to share with you in a second, it's going to be quite nice to show that actually what consumers say and what they do are two totally different things sometimes. So it would be completely common sense for consumers to say, I'm going to rein in, I'm not going to go out to shop, or I'm not going to go out to eat as much as I would do because that's prudent and that's sensible and I want to look after the family finances. The harsh reality is, because we are a sociable nation and we are sociable animals, that actually we do still want to do it, and we are still doing that. Simon's excellent presentation had lots of pictures. Mine is a bit more on the drier side. Apologies for that. And just picking up on one or two points which Simon said, a kind of recession. I am old enough to remember the last recession, 2008, 2009, 2010. I also remember what dragged us out of the recession, if those of you are old enough like me to remember. It was not the media. In fact, the media were full of doom and gloom continuously, and it was actually consumers. It was a consumer-led recovery when they woke up one morning and said, we're tired of being told that we're poor, we've got to lose our jobs. We haven't lost our jobs, we haven't lost our houses, and actually let's go out and have some fun. That is exactly what happened in about 2010, 2011. So let's be careful and mindful, and let's understand that the media has a role to play, but not necessarily always take what they say. TWC has been around for 10 years. I used to own HIM, which is now known as Luminar. Some of you probably know Luminar. Hopefully many of you in this room will have heard of TWC, either because you actually have heard of us or you use us. We are a data management company, so 49 wholesalers in the UK give us their data, and we tidy it up, cleanse it, pass it back to them so that they can commercialize it. And 153 suppliers buy that data from the wholesalers through our platform. So it may be kind of an indirect relationship, but we work with 49 wholesalers and 153 suppliers based on kind of the technology. We also do quite a bit of consulting. We've got a number of long-term supplier and wholesaler clients who we're continuously consulting for. We're almost like an extension of their insights or category management teams. But we also do lots of ad hoc, smaller, maybe 2 or 3 month projects where essentially sometimes we're asked to externally, with fresh eyes, validate their strategies or to try and quantify size of the prize. We think we've got this great big opportunity with JJ or with one other wholesaler. Can we get some independent fresh eyes to look at that? We're doing a lot of that at the moment, and I think that's going to become more and more popular. TWC Trends is a research element, whether it's consumer research or retailer research or food service operator research, or partnering with organisations like Women in Wholesale or the FWD. We've done numbers of research, pieces of research for them in recent months. We also do a lot of consumer research, which I'm going to share bits and pieces with you, and we also partner, we're a commercial partner to an organisation or a program, research program called Meal Track, and I'm going to share some findings for them. That's a program which has been going on since 2015, and it gets the nation's usage of mainly food to go and out-of-home eating on the more kind of food to go side rather than Michelin star dining side, but food to go is still absolutely huge, and we're going to share some facts and figures with that. Here's a few things that we're going to cover, which I'll get straight on to. So what I want to start by talking about is endorsing some of the things which Simon mentioned in his presentation, which is actually surely the world should have fallen off the cliff, or food to go and food service should have fallen off the cliff by now. Now, this is the number of occasions. You'll see an actual figure in it, and it's on a kind of a year, but this is in the previous 12 weeks, looking at the last couple of months' waves of research. So essentially, the number of occasions, the number of people going into outlets to buy, to purchase, either to consume on-premise or to take away, is still in growth. So this is the number of visits or the number of occasions. The value is up 12%. So taking the point which Patrick said, which is about, we think inflation maybe in this sector is 6, 7, 8%, and value through the outlets is 12%, so there's actually a net increase of about 4 or 5%. So by and large, not the doom and gloom that we have received. This is up until the 31st of October. The figures up to the 31st of November are due out in a couple of days. If anybody wants to receive them, we're happy to give kind of top-line figures free of charge. Just send me an email, look me up on LinkedIn, or grab me at lunchtime. Any of those, we'll send them to you straight away. The next slide is a little grisly, but I shall talk you through it. So there were, in that 4-week period, up until the 31st of October, there were 861 million, so just not far short of 1 billion occasions, which was up 4% on a like-for-like basis. So that's where you start here. If you then start looking down, you can then segment it a bit like the family tree or the organogram. There's a bit of a story to tell. I can send you these slides, or Elliot, I'm very happy for Elliot to share these slides afterwards. But there's a bit of a story to tell. So if we start on the right-hand side, what we're seeing is restaurants, the number of occasions. This is restaurants and hotels, a bit of decline. The number of visits is in decline, but the number of pubs has gone up quite a lot. Put that down to exactly what Simon has alluded to. Well, first of all, pubs continue to reinvent themselves and to improve their customer and consumer proposition. Secondly, the perception of them is probably more affordable and more value-based than you would necessarily maybe get from a restaurant. So we think that's there. But there's also, look at quite a big swing over towards grocery outlets as well. And you saw some of the examples from Milton Keynes and Tesco and Asda and Sainsbury's, which again, Simon alluded to. So. And the value in the malts there, gross malts, 24% in terms of the number of visits. The value is up a third, up 34%. So I was at a kind of a conference stroke lunch, maybe some of you may have been there as well, kind of the Arena Food Service lunch on Monday. And one of the things which one of the key themes which kept on coming up was we can't let food service and food to go become a price game, a race to the bottom, only focusing on price. The funny side of the thing is, these guys probably do, because the multiples work in a very, very, very price competitive market. Their margins are 2, 3, 4% at best, and actually price is their game. And what they're also doing at the moment is making very good promotions, which are meal deals, which are attractive to the consumer, but also adding an additional layer of discount or money off by the utilisation of Club Card. I actually was walking past Boots yesterday. I popped in to buy a sandwich, and I noticed they're doing exactly the same, that you can buy a meal deal, but you can get an additional discount off if you use your Advantage card. So this is what they're going to do. And you can see in the short term that, understandably, I would argue, that they do have a very good price image. They've got a very kind of okay range. And probably in the current environment, it kind of ticks a lot of boxes. But I do kind of think there's a couple of things we need to think about. Kind of negatively, what's driving all of this is loyalty and the loyalty cards. And loyalty really is just another word for data. data, which is knowledge, which is understanding what consumers are doing, to be able to recognize new trends really, really quickly on the one hand, but on the other hand, to be able to have a personal dialogue with consumers. 75% of all transactions which are made through a Tesco supermarket or convenience store at the moment, 75% of all transactions, the shopper is using their club card. So the shopper is getting a bit of a discount. In fact, if you look at this, some of the discounts are incredible. They're getting a good discount. What is Tesco getting? Data, knowledge, contacts, communication opportunities. And that's, you can say that's brutally retail, and I don't want food service to go down brutally retail, but there is an element of what are we as a sector going to be doing around data? And that's really what our business is all about. TWC is really fundamentally all about data and improving performance through using data. The couple of other things from the food service, from the arena food service conversation and lunch we had the other day about the importance of retail. There was a lady there, brilliant speaker, I thought she was, from Greggs. She's told us they sell more pizza through supermarkets than through their own outlets. So retail is really important to them. She disclosed it. 43 million pizzas we sell through supermarkets every year. She said that's a long way further, more ahead or higher than what we sell through our own outlets. So there is this kind of sleeping with the enemy a little bit, which is really understanding what is happening in terms of retail. The good news is, and again, it sounds like I'm very pro-supermarkets, I'm not, but the point I want to talk about, pick up on Simon's point, is younger consumers, we've done quite a bit of research over this, younger consumers do not like shopping in supermarkets. It's the things which their parents did. They find them kind of pretty boring, pretty bland. It's a generation thing. But they want to continue to shop in either local outlets or smaller outlets, and that might be, if it's retail, it might be local independent convenience stores or delis. But in terms of local restaurants, that is where the cohort, the younger cohort, see where they're going to go in the future. Temporary little blip at the moment because of the economy, possibly, but longer term, that's why we see supermarkets trying to attract so many other food service brands and associated brands to make them more relevant to tomorrow's consumers, because the way that kind of our generation and our parents' generation shop is not how younger consumers want to shop at all. What is the key driver? This is something you'll see in a little trend. This is the most recent data up until the end of October. There is a shift. Again, it's kind of common sense. You can understand it. It's towards something which is not too expensive, something a little bit more affordable so the suppliers in the room. How do we continue to look at our product and the product offering, and how can we kind of chip away at kind of the price of what we are offering? Disappointingly, that there's a little bit of functionality going on, so we focus on kind of that treat and indulgence. Slight decline at the moment. I think it's a media-triggered thing where we almost have to be prudent, and we have to be careful, and we have to be cautious. The second one, though, I think is quite interesting. Quick and easy, so convenient or convenience, not necessarily about the convenience channel, but it's around the products, and that has also got to do with packaging. It's got to do with understanding whether people are eating these alone. Rather large growth in food to go of two people sharing rather than one person eating alone. Again, I can share all that detail with you. So I think there's quite a lot going on at the moment. In terms of the value, that was the value we just saw a second ago. So I've just trended it over the last 6 months. Apologies that Mr. PowerPoint has swapped, it's gone almost to, oh no, it's on my screen, it's actually fine there. But you can see that this has been quite growth in quite a short period of time, that actually looking for something really affordable and cheap only 6 months or so ago was not a particularly high priority. So people are either feeling the squeeze or feeling that they should be feeling the squeeze, and therefore just saving money for a rainy day. What they are also trying to do is go back to some of their staples. So, you know, one of my regular favourites, so whether it's homely, now that might have something to do with the time of year as you get towards more autumnal and you get towards more winter, then the kind of homely creature comforts becomes more to the fore. But to try something a bit different, again, are we as a nation starting to take a few slightly risks? And that might be driven by what we see when we go to the supermarkets, because we saw that there was big growth towards supermarkets, who wouldn't have such a flamboyant range as you would see in kind of an independent. So it's actually kind of making do for the time. And so the question I have is, do we either just accept this is what is going to happen for the next 12 months and knuckle down and try and work out how do our products fit within the product portfolio of what consumers are looking for, or do we actually try and fight back and say, yes, hold on a second, we understand your predicament, but there is an alternative, which is interesting, which is indulgent, and which is exciting, and it then becomes a kind of communication exercise. So I think there's kind of very, very different strategies, and obviously understanding who the consumer is, and not just basic kind of demographics, but what drives them, what's their motivations, what's their fears. That is understanding. So kind of, I like the idea of kind of understanding from a kind of a segmentation point of view. This research is what we did. It was admittedly 4 or 5 months or so ago. We do a couple of waves a year, and this is to find out how the nation is feeling towards either the economy or their jobs. And this is here around, I'm having to reduce my spending to pay my bills. Just over half said yes. And that's sometimes the ones which kind of get all the media attention. But actually, there was 40% of the UK population, which still amounts to about 20 million people, if I got my maths right. 40% of the UK population who are saying, it's actually, I am not suffering too bad financially. If we were to do this research again today, we may well find a slightly more pessimistic figure. But I still come back to one of those earlier slides, which showed you that actually the number of visits and the number of occasions to food service outlets and hospitality outlets was actually holding up. So what people say is one thing, but what they're doing is they're still going out, and that's where we take some reassurance. Again, this is one of those where we understand who may be suffering a bit more than others. The younger consumers, and I do have a lot of sympathy for younger consumers who probably left university with rather large tuition fee bills, and they're having to earn a lot of money before they can save up to get a deposit to get onto the property ladder. It's absolutely tough for them, and those with kids as well. But again, if we flip this on the other side, we still have quite a population where many kids have flown an S or there aren't any kids at all. So there are opportunities and understanding who they are. The drivers of growth, in one of my earlier slides from Track about why is visits staying up, that was actually predominantly driven by people over the age of 55. So again, with suppliers in the room, do you have products which target over 55-year-olds, or could, or should, or maybe, or might do? Because that is where their money is at the moment. Here's some things which consumers are saying that they're doing to kind of try and rein in their spending. We've kind of focused at which is kind of grocery and food orientated. Here you go. So they're cutting back on treats. Again, that's an obvious thing to say, but we still see that people are still snacking. So we're kind of, the reality is still going on. But again, you can have a glance over this through after today if you want to, or come and grab me. I'll send you this. But you can see these are the kind of the natural things which consumers would say. This is where 40% of consumers said they would be eating out less frequently. Now, there's no doubt we do know that spend is holding up and people are visiting slightly less frequently, but the total number of visits is holding up. This week, I think, could be a bit of a rubbish week, I think, with everything going on. But by and large, I hadn't heard anything so far which would suggest it was going to be a disaster in the month of November either. So let's see where we're going. I'm conscious of time, so I'm just rattling through my last few bits here. Sustainability, which is a really, really key issue facing consumers, probably all consumers now. I think it means different things to different people. I just want to focus on the kind of bottom right, food waste. This morning I saw a great tweet from Premier Foods from research. I don't know if it's their research or they're quoting someone else's research, but their research or tweet was 75% of consumers now see that food waste is a major issue to them, and the implication being it would affect where they were going to choose to go. So I think that's good because that's a consumer issue which is also a trade issue, so that's got implications for portion size and things like that. Comes as no surprises that younger consumers are slightly more focused on values, but it's not exactly only younger kids and the older people don't give a monkey's. Absolutely nonsense. This is clearly the path of the journey of travel that we're all going, and what we can all do to demonstrate our credentials is absolutely crucial. And just lastly, really, around kind of calories, we brought this out, it was admittedly about 4 or 5 months or so ago, quite soon after the legislation had come in for outlets over a certain size. And it was kind of quite a mixed opinion. 45% of consumers actually felt it was quite a good thing and was helpful to them. It was interesting what this lady from Greggs said yesterday, Monday. Her views was actually consumers will still go and buy, sorry, not Greggs, Pizza Express. Consumers will still go out and buy the Pizza Express and not worry about the number of calories on the core product, but it might be ancillary products. It might be the things which goes with the pizza, or it might be cutting back entirely or cutting down slightly on the dessert. So again, the core product is probably fine, but it's what's surrounding it is the issues. Allergen information has been noticed by a lot. I think there's a perception that everyone is intolerant or have some kind of allergy of some nation. It's between 10 or 11%. The number of meals or the number of snacking occasions or snacks which are bought, which kind of the products or the meals fits into kind of gluten-free or one allergen section or another, can be as high as 30%. So consumers are making those kind of choices regardless of how significantly they themselves are suffering from it. So I finish with hopefully some news around the fact that the visits are holding up and value is doing okay, so it hasn't fallen off the end of the side of the cliff as of yet. Latest figures coming out in a few days' time. There is clearly a move towards value, but how much of that has been driven by the supermarkets because they play the value game, they play the price game. And so if they're playing the price game, do we want to allow them to do that, but our sector focus on the value and the value for money, the value for experience, the value for family time? We can counter that. Values are still important, sustainability, you've seen that. There is this kind of move towards being quick, being convenient. We are seeing more people are coming back to work and are time busy again. So how many of our products fit into that quick, easy, convenient? How do we find loyalty, whether you're a wholesaler to your customer, whether you are a brand owner to your customers? How do we try to understand how loyal our customers are? And is that changing over a period of time? We do quite a bit of work around kind of that loyalty index and risks too in the future. And then digital, I'm not going to talk about digital because I think we all have seen 1,001 presentations about digital, but I am very, very interested about how we as an industry collectively and individually work together with data, because that is the thing which is probably going to power us and help us be more successful than anything else. Thank you for your time.